What's going on, everyone? So Victor Wembanyama is coming off of a historically great season. I mean, he was fantastic in every which way. Obviously, won Rookie of the Year. I mean, you could have made a genuine argument for him to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. He was spectacular on that side of the basketball, really on both sides of the basketball. He's a guy that you look at and you go, all right, he's going to be a top all time great, top 5, top 10 player all time as long as he stays healthy, is able to win. But at some point, it just feels like there's going to be a Victor Wembanyama takeover, new San Antonio dynasty type. And San Antonio is an organization that, like, they want to win, right? Like, they got their guy. They're going to do whatever they can to build that next wave of a Spurs dynasty. And they have their front man, right? They got their, quote unquote, their Tim Duncan type, right? And the beauty of Victor Wembanyama is his ability to play either the center position or the power forward position. And there's a real argument for him to play the power forward position, right? But his versatility, I think, is also going to be what's very valuable for San Antonio because it gives them options, right? They could go and get a, kind of a bulky, beefy type, Aaron Gordon type power forward if they wanted to pair alongside of Victor Wembanyama, kind of have some versatility, switchability out there. They could go with, a versatile big man and, have Victor play the 4 and kind of imagine him on the blind side help. Like, oh my god, good luck. But nonetheless, right? Like there's options, and a lot of it is because of Victor Wembanyama. And look, the Spurs don't need to rush or be in a hurry because Victor is so young. Obviously, the sooner the better, but they're luckily not in a position where it's like, oh, we have to contend next year. No, like they can take their time kind of building and shaping and molding this roster via the draft or, various key trades and free agency and whatnot. There's already been talks and report that Victor has said guys have already reached out to him about wanting to team up and play in San Antonio, right? You get to play with Greg Popovich, you get to play with an incredible talent in Victor Wembanyama, and the Spurs absolutely need several things. But San Antonio could have as many as 2 top 6 picks, if I'm not mistaken. I believe if the Raptors pick falls 6th, or worse, I think they get San Antonio gets the pick, and then obviously they have like the 5th best odds to land the number 1. So it's very possible they could even land the number 1 pick again. And a lot of talk is around what should the Spurs do, right? Should the Spurs draft a center? A lot of people really want to see San Antonio go and draft some type of center, right? You have like Alexander Sarr, who he's a guy that many people think could be the next great big and is, for a long time was projected to be the number 1 pick and is a guy, I mean, he still very well could be the number 1 pick and could end up being the kind of cornerstone for a particular franchise, even a guy that you could pair alongside Victor Wembanyama, right? So there's a lot of talks with that. And then obviously UConn has their big man in Donovan Clingan, who they now is kind of in that conversation for the number 1 pick as far as the centers go. So you have 2 big men where obviously the Spurs would have to land in that area to actually get that. But there's a lot of conversation of like, if they do, you go get one of those big men. Now, obviously, you always want to take, especially if you're getting one of the top picks, take the best player available, right? But luckily, again, because San Antonio is in a position to where it's like Victor is so versatile, you can draft one of these big men and bring them on and, bring in an Alexander, bring in a Donovan and shift Victor to the 4, or even in Sarr's case, like, he's thought to be able to play the 4 as well. And then now you have these multiple bigs that you're kind of using as like your building blocks and foundation. Obviously, San Antonio still needs to go get a playmaker, particularly a point guard that can hopefully shoot. But again, they could end up, like I said, with multiple picks, or they could end up going and trading a guy, or they'll have a ton of money, so they could end up signing a guy if they wanted to. There was kind of talks and murmurs for a little while of Trae Young. That didn't really ever make sense to me. And now reports are that, yeah, no, San Antonio doesn't want to do that because he's not really a Spurs type of guy, which I agree with, right? He's high usage, constantly on ball, needs the ball in his hands. Where, Greg Popovich, he likes free flowing offense, ball moving, not sticking, which is why it was so frustrating. I'm sure many Spurs fans were incredibly frustrated by just like the offense at times this year. But nonetheless, right? You look at kind of the landscape of this upcoming draft, and it's not projected to be this incredibly talented draft. It's kind of looked at to be kind of top heavy. Now, you never really know. Right? There's always that guy or two that just comes out of left field that you're just like, whoa, where did that guy come from? And the late first round, middle first round, or so in some cases even the second round. But another option, because again, San Antonio, they have the fifth best odds of landing the number one pick. But you have several teams ahead, such as like the Detroit Pistons and Washington Wizards. Now, team like Washington, they basically need everything. So they're going to take the best player available. They're going to take the best player that they can get. But a team like Detroit, for example, they have like a million centers, right? So if they were to land, say, a top 3 pick or something, do they take Sar or do they just kind of go the other way? Right? Do they take somebody else, like another position of need? Now, my guess is that Detroit does take the best player available, but even if they do, like let's say they do take, Alex Sar, right? Well, they still would have to figure out what are they going to do with like Jalen Duren, James Wiseman, right? They still have Isaiah Stewart. They have like 3-4 centers on the roster. Now they could try to, depending on which guy they get, right? They could maybe move one to the 4 and try to make it work and see how it goes. But it's just like, how many centers can you have? How many centers do you need on the roster? At some point it's like, okay, they're going to have to trade and unload some of these guys. So, like let's say it's a Donovan, right? Well, can he and Duren play alongside each other, or do they look at it and go, we need to move, let's move off of Duren? Well, San Antonio may be able to come in and maybe get a young center that way, right? Again, I'm not necessarily saying that Detroit would line up to do something like that, but depending on how things shape up and depending on what direction Detroit wants to go, like if they're really high, like let's say that they're super high on Sar, and maybe you could get, even if it's not a Duren, right? Maybe you could get a James Wiseman for basically nothing, right? And they're just like, we just give us like a couple seconds or something like that for him. Maybe you could work something out, or maybe you could work out some big trade where you get because a lot of talks about Jaden Ivey, right? And can he work with Cade Cunningham? And that Detroit might look to potentially move him. Maybe you could go get an Ivey and a Wiseman for a reasonable price and just kind of see, right? Especially if you can get it on like the low cost, right? Now you got your shooting star or your shooting guard of the future, and maybe you got if Wiseman, because Wiseman's had moments in games where he's shown some promise, and if anyone can kind of draw it out of him, it'd be a guy in Greg Popovich, right? And the San Antonio Spurs. It's just kind of a thought, right? It's just to highlight that San Antonio has options. But again, like the beauty of Victor is that there isn't this pressure of like, we have to get a center, we have to get another big man, right? Like they have the luxury of like him being able to play both positions. Now him at the 4 might be the best option, but they don't have to rush to make that happen is the point, right? Like they could be patient and wait for the right guy or the right pick or the right whatever, potential right trade to open up or something, kind of continue to go with like a Collins, Zach Collins or something like that for now, or, maybe bring in like a more veteran guy, and maybe bring in like a Valanciunas for, a year or two or a couple years, right? To just kind of play alongside until you get the younger, better option, right? Like, let's say you don't get in this year's draft, right? Maybe you're just like, okay, well, we got our small forward of the future or shooting guard of the future or whatever. Now let's go get, a veteran center and a veteran playmaker and kind of, let's see if we can make the playoffs and get a little experience while we try to get guys, right? It's kind of one of those things like with San Antonio. It's like you have the foundation piece, you have the star that's going to attract other people, you got the organization, you got the legendary head coach. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like, if you build it, they will come, right? And we're in an NBA now where, yes, big markets are, still have a level of allure, right? Like the Lakers will always have that shine to them. The Knicks will always have this level of shine to them, right? Like you have these bigger market teams, these historically great teams that, always have some type of shine. But San Antonio, and the fact that the NBA is so, like, you can be anywhere now and make more money than you've ever imagined, where that kind of was at a point very exclusive for only the top teams. It's just, there might be guys that are like, man, like I could go play with Victor, contend for NBA championships and, get paid. It's a win-win. So just kind of a thought. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think that yes, go get a center. They need a center. Do you think, no, like, just draft the best player available, depending on where you land, wherever you fall, but center isn't like this dire emergency or anything like that. Again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.